You see, financial planning is the practice of basically setting goals, running this equation you're about to learn more about, and then investing money based on what the math tells you to do. The problem is, as my mentor Bob Castellone once says, math is not money and money is not math. So let me explain first of all on the whiteboard what these symbols mean in the equation and the problems we run into if you try to follow the math. First of all, the W in a financial planning equation, which again, we don't do this, stands for wealth. Okay, so for instance, you might say, Tony, I want a goal of having $1 million at a certain age. Well then, depending on your age and what you're wanting, the T stands for time. So in other words, if you're back in the 2000 year and you're 42 years of age and you're going to retire at 62, obviously you've got 20 years on your side for us to run this calculation. R stands for rate, in other words, the rate of return. And this is what scares me to death because there's people out there, especially a lot of these financial entertainers, who are constantly going on about 10 and 12% you can get in the stock market. Folks, for retirement planning, as we're going to see, this is dangerous advice at best. And finally, so let's say you got the wealth goal, the time goal, the rate of return. The last goal you're satisfying or solving for in this equation is what we call money supply. So the biggest one that ought to jump out at you that shows how wacky this is and why you can't follow financial planning and retirement planning is R. Again, we're recording this show on July 6th, 2022. And if you had been assuming you're making 8 or 9% a year all the way through retirement and you had all of your money in the market, guess what? Your plan is shot. It's down 30%, and more than likely there's no way you're going to be able to meet your objectives. The problem is, if you don't have a game plan, your goose is really cooked. All right? So let's take an example of somebody that I've been working with over the years and to see how we're dealing with this. Well, first of all, back several years ago, and I'm changing the names to protect the innocent, this person had a 401k of about $500,000, and their employer allowed them to roll over $400,000 to Tony Walker Financial in our split IRA concept, which we put some of that with Charles Schwab. Now, let me say this. A lot of you don't realize this. If you're over the age of 59 and a half and still working, most 401ks will let you go ahead and roll that over to safer territory with someone like us, either all of it or part of it, which they allow this gentleman to take out part of it. Keep in mind, this gentleman's retiring at the end of July. In addition to that, he's eligible for a lump sum pension of another $200,000. But again, he cannot get that money until he terminates employment, but that's going to come over into one of our buckets through our split IRA concept. Now here's what's interesting. This $400,000 we were able to work with, that leaves another $100,000 still in his 401k. Again, at the end of July, the employer and the custodian is going to allow him to go on and move over to our split IRA concept. And he is looking forward to retirement, except what? Well, except we did put some money in our Charles Schwab platform. Well, who's Charles Schwab? Well, Charles Schwab are the stocks, the bonds, the mutual funds, the CDs. They're just like your 401k. They're different than all the annuities we offer through the split IRA concept. Annuities are protected. The Charles Schwab platform can lose value, and it's gone down a little bit. So he's a little nervous. Well, fortunately, we had this other bucket out here. It's called money in the bank. When we first started working, he had about $50,000 to $60,000 there, and he wanted to invest that. And I said, Mr. Jones, here's the thing. You're getting ready to retire in a year or so, and since I don't know what the market's going to do or nobody else knows what it's going to do, we've got to be careful here, because if we have a downturn in the market right about the time you retire, we're going to need to grab our money somewhere where we don't have any losses. And fortunately, we've got that money over there. So what he's going to do, we've already rearranged a few things here to correct some things and get him back on track, but he's going to be able to use that after-tax cash that's been over there protected at the bank to meet any contingencies or emergencies. So the moral to the story, folks, is this is not about math. This is not about retirement calculators. It's not about goofy equations. It's about having a process with a local retirement planning firm that not only has the first 4 steps, which most people do have somewhat of a 4-step process, but more importantly can prove to you that you're going to have a written game plan, and secondly, to have that written game plan monitored by professionals who know what they're doing in the field of retirement planning. So that's you right now. Maybe you're retired, retiring soon. Maybe you feel like you've got an advisor and you realize, you know what, they just sold me a bunch of stuff. I don't have a game plan and I sure don't have a way to monitor my progress. Why don't you do this right now? Why don't you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on that Let's Get Started button, and we'll be happy to set up a free, no obligation 10-minute fiduciary phone call. And if it warrants, meet you in person at either our Louisville, Bowling Green, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or call the toll-free number on your screen.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed that video. If you'd like, check out these other clips. And be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button for more videos.